This is Defender Radio. Defender Radio is brought to you by Gates Wildlife Control and the Association for the Protection of Fur-Bearing Animals.
It's the week of April 20th, 2015, and this is Michael Howie welcoming you to the YouTube edition of episode 224 of Defender Radio. With Earth Day on the horizon, it makes sense to take a step back from fur-bear-specific issues and look at a subject plaguing the entire planet. What's interesting, however, is that this issue does, in fact, relate back to fur-bearing animals. For this week's episode, we connected with Keegan Kuhn, a co-director of the popular and incredible documentary Cowspiracy. In what begins as a simple flick about water use and sustainability, Keegan and co-director Kip quickly discover there is a much larger problem in the use of life-giving water around the world: animal agriculture. This massive and powerful industry is responsible for an uncanny level of damage to our planet and, of course, our wildlife. In this interview, Keegan explored the building of the film, from the personal journey to the stonewalling by massive non-profits and how it changed his life, and may change the world. Tell me a bit about sort of how this project, Cowspiracy, started. What was the beginning groundwork behind it?
Yeah, so Cowspiracy started from my co-director, Kip Anderson. He was, inspiring environmentalist, wanted to do everything he could to help the planet. He saw An Inconvenient Truth, film starring Al Gore, former Vice President of the United States, talking about climate change. And in the film, he makes recommendations, and through activism makes recommendations for switching to complex fluorescence, driving hybrid vehicles, or even better, walking or riding a bike for transportation, and making relatively small steps in how to help the planet. And my co-director Kip went down that path. But after years of doing that, he wanted really, is this going to be enough to save the planet? And he found out about the impact of animal agriculture, stumbled across a report from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in 2006 that said that animal agriculture, raising animals for food, is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the entire combined exhaust of all the world's transportation vehicles. So that's everything from boat, plane, train, car, truck combined. The combined exhaust of all those vehicles was less than the emissions of animal agriculture. And so that's really started down this path of why isn't this information at the forefront of the world's largest environmental organizations? If this is one of the primary drivers of climate change, and it goes anywhere from 14.5% of greenhouse gas emissions all the way up to 51% of greenhouse gas emissions could be attributed to animal agriculture in some way. Why isn't this at the forefront? And then from there, it just goes deeper and deeper. I got involved with the project pretty early on, and we realized that there was a real story here, and so that's what the film follows. It follows my co-director's whole journey down this path.
One of the things I personally enjoyed, I'm a journalist by training, and the series of phone calls Kip was making, and I'm sure you were making these phone calls and everybody else involved with the project was making the phone calls, of trying to get the large national and international nonprofits and charities in the U.S. to talk about the subject of animal agriculture, and how virtually none of them were willing to touch it. How did you respond when you started making these calls to people who are willing to talk about anything and do anything, and all of a sudden won't touch one of these huge issues?
That's where the conspiracy part really started to come in, was, why isn't, if animal agriculture is the leading cause of rainforest destruction around the world, primarily in the Amazon, but around the world is by far the leading cause, why aren't the world's largest rainforest organizations talking about it? Why isn't that their forefront issue? And when, we would go to want to talk to them and they said, oh, we're not interested, it was, well, why wouldn't you be interested in talking about this? It becomes very conspiratorial. What is their motivation? Is it a motivation of they're getting paid off? Is it that they're afraid of scaring off donors? Is it that they're have to reflect on their own lifestyles? Is it the repression that activists face in the U.S. and around the world for speaking out against the cattle industry and animal agriculture in general? But we realized we had to go a different route in order to get these organizations in front of the camera. So we kind of shifted gears, and we were really focused on, all right, we're just going to be doing a film on sustainability, and we're going to just talk about sustainability. So the organizations that we finally could get on camera, we said, we're doing a film on sustainability. Here are the questions. What's the leading cause of environmental degradation? What's the leading cause of tussle erosion, water pollution, on and on and on, and allowed them to answer it. And then when they didn't bring up animal agriculture, we'd say, well, there's X number of studies here that say that, in fact, animal agriculture is the leading cause. And that's when, the interviews shift energetically and emotionally for a lot of them.
To hear the full interview with Keegan, visit furbeardefenders.com. Until next time, this is Michael Howie reminding you to stay informed and stay strong.